She sat alone at a table set for two, watching the snowstorm rage outside while champagne bubbles died in an untouched glass. Across the dim restaurant, he checked his phone for the fifth time, realizing nobody was coming. Two strangers, two empty chairs. One brutal Chicago night that would crack open every careful wall they had spent years building around their hearts. This is a story about what happens when loneliness finally finds company, when a single father who buried his dreams meets a billionaire CEO, hiding from her own reflection, and when two broken people discover that sometimes the worst night of your life leads you exactly where you were always meant to be. If you want to see how far this story reaches, hit that like button, drop a comment with your city, and stay with me until the very end. The restaurant was the kind of place Adrian Vale couldn't afford. He knew it the moment he walked through the brass-framed doors and saw the chandeliers hanging like frozen waterfalls from a ceiling so high it made him feel small. White tablecloths, candlelight trembling inside hurricane glass, waiters moving between tables with the kind of silence that costs money just to witness. His boots, good boots, the ones he saved for parent-teacher conferences and funerals, left wet prints on marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Adrian tugged at his collar. The tie felt like a noose. "Reservation for two," he told the hostess, a young woman whose smile was professionally kind and entirely empty. "Under Thompson." She checked her tablet. "Right this way, Mr. Thompson." He followed her through the maze of tables, past couples leaning into candlelight, past businessmen shaking hands over dessert, past everything that reminded him he didn't belong here. The table she led him to sat near the windows, where snow piled against the glass like it was trying to bury the whole city. Chicago in February was unforgiving. Tonight, it was vicious. "Your guest hasn't arrived yet," the hostess said, pulling out his chair. "Can I start you with something to drink?" "Water's fine." She hesitated, like water was an insult to the leather-bound menu she placed in front of him. Then she left. Adrian sat. The chair was more comfortable than anything in his apartment. He pulled out his phone and checked the time. 7:15. Rebecca, his coworker who had set this whole thing up, swore her friend was punctual, swore they'd be perfect together, swore he needed to start living again. Living, Adrian thought, staring at the menu where entrees cost more than his weekly grocery budget. Right. He'd agreed to this for one reason. Rebecca wouldn't shut up about it. For 3 months she'd cornered him in the break room, left notes on his desk, ambushed him by the coffee machine. "You're too young to be this alone. No one needs to see you happy. Just one dinner. What's the worst that could happen?" Adrian checked his phone again. 7:20. He texted Rebecca. "I'm here." "She's not." The reply came fast. "Give her time. Traffic's awful." He looked out the window. Snow fell in thick sheets, turning Michigan Avenue into something ghostly and unreal. Cars crawled. Streetlights bled orange into white. He could barely see the building across the street. 7:30. Adrian ordered water for the table. The waiter brought it in a bottle he had to pronounce twice, poured it into glasses that probably cost more than Adrian's security deposit, then disappeared again. 7:45. His phone stayed silent. Around him, the restaurant hummed with other people's lives. A couple celebrated an anniversary 3 tables over. A man proposed near the bar. Adrian watched the woman cry. Watched everyone applaud. Watched the whole perfect moment unfold like a movie he'd never star in. His chest tightened. He texted Rebecca again. "I don't think she's coming. Just wait. 8 o'clock. The waiter returned, refilled his water, asked if he'd like to order an appetizer while he waited. Adrian said no. The pity in the waiter's eyes made him want to crawl under the table. He should leave. He should pay for the water he didn't ask for, walk back out into the snow, take the train home to his son and the babysitter who charged $20 an hour he couldn't spare. He should stop pretending he was the kind of man who belonged in places like this, with people who actually showed up. But leaving meant admitting it, meant walking past all these tables alone, past the hostess who would know exactly what happened, past his own reflection in those brass-framed doors. So Adrian stayed. He picked up the menu and pretended to read it. Seared duck breast with cherry gastrique, whatever the hell gastrique was. Wagyu beef that cost $80. Pasta he could make at home for $5. 8:15. His phone buzzed, finally. But it wasn't Rebecca's friend. It was Noah's babysitter. "Everything okay? You said you'd be back by 9. Adrian typed fast. "Running late. I'll pay extra. No problem." He's asleep. Take your time. Take your time. Like this was something worth taking time for. He set the phone down and stared at the empty chair across from him. At the second place setting, the second napkin folded into a swan, the second menu nobody would touch. Rough night? Adrian looked up. The woman at the table next to him was watching him over the rim of a wine glass. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back tight enough to look intentional, sharp features, expensive clothes, a black dress that didn't apologize for anything, jewelry that caught the candlelight and threw it back like a challenge. She sat alone at a table also set for two. Adrian blinked. Sorry? I said rough night. She gestured at his empty table with her glass. You've been staring at that chair like it owes you money. He stopped. Yeah. Rough night. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Join the club. Adrian glanced at her table. 2 menus. 2 water glasses. 1 chair as empty as his. You too? He asked. 45 minutes and counting. She took a sip of wine. I'd leave, but apparently I'm still hoping I'm wrong about people. How's that working out? Terribly. Despite everything, Adrian almost laughed. Same. The woman studied him for a moment, head tilted slightly, like she was deciding something. Then she stood, picked up her wine glass, and walked over to his table. Mind if I sit? Adrian stared at her. What? We're both alone. Both dressed up for people who didn't show. Both too stubborn to leave. She pulled out the empty chair across from him and sat down before he could answer. So, mind if I sit? Adrian looked around. Nobody was watching. The restaurant kept humming along, oblivious. I guess not? Great. She settled in like she owned the place. Maybe she did. Everything about her screamed money. The kind of money Adrian only saw from a distance. I'm Celeste. Adrian. Nice to meet you, Adrian. She raised her glass. Tabine stood up. He didn't have anything to toast with except water, but he lifted the glass anyway. Tabine stood up. They drank. The moment felt absurd, surreal, like he'd stepped sideways into someone else's night. Celeste set her glass down and leaned back in the chair. So, what's your story? My story? Why you're here. Why they didn't show. Why you're still sitting at a table that's clearly out of your budget, no offense, waiting for someone who's probably not coming. Adrian should have been offended. Instead, he was just tired. Blind date. Friend set it up. She swore we'd hit it off. Let me guess. You didn't want to come. No. But you came anyway because saying no was harder than sitting through dinner with a stranger. Adrian stared at her. How did you... Because that's my story too. Celeste picked up the menu, barely glanced at it, set it back down. Except mine was a setup by my assistant, who thinks I need to engage with normal social interactions more often. Does she know you're not normal? Celeste's smile sharpened. She suspects. The waiter appeared beside the table, looking confused but professionally neutral. Have you decided on anything? Celeste looked at Adrian. Hungry? He should say no. Should make an excuse. Pay for the water. Go home. But Noah was asleep. The babysitter said, take your time, and sitting across from this strange woman felt less pathetic than sitting alone. Yeah, Adrian said. I'm hungry. Celeste turned to the waiter. We'll start with the burrata. Then I'll have the duck. He'll have... She paused, looked at Adrian. What do you actually want? Adrian scanned the menu fast. Everything was either unpronounceable or terrifying. The pasta. The one with... He squinted. Tagliatelle? Perfect. And bring us a bottle of the Barolo. The waiter collected the menus and vanished. Adrian looked at Celeste. I can't afford that wine. I didn't ask you to. I can pay for my own dinner. I'm sure you can, but you won't. She leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. Consider it reparations for the emotional damage of being abandoned in public. That's not how reparations work. Says who? Adrian didn't have an answer for that. The wine arrived fast. The waiter poured 2 glasses, left the bottle, disappeared again. Celeste lifted hers and waited until Adrian did the same. To terrible setups, she said, and expensive reparations. What son? They drank. The wine tasted like something Adrian would never buy in 1,000 years. Dark and complicated and probably worth more than his car payment. Celeste watched him over the rim of her glass. You don't do this often. What, drink wine that costs more than my rent? Go on dates. Adrian set the glass down carefully. No, I don't. Why not? Because I have a kid and a job and about 6 hours of free time per week, most of which I spend trying to remember what sleep feels like. How old? The kid or the sleep deprivation? Celeste smiled. A real one this time, small and quick. The kid. 8. His name's Noah. And his mom? The question landed heavy. Adrian looked down at his water glass. Gone. Celeste didn't push, didn't offer empty condolences or change the subject too fast. She just nodded once, like she understood something without needing the details. What about you? Adrian asked. Why does your assistant think you need normal social interactions? Because I work 80 hours a week and haven't been to a non-business dinner in 6 months. What do you do? I run a tech company. What kind? The kind that makes too much money. Or Adrian waited for her to elaborate. She didn't. That's vague, he said. It's intentional. Why? Celeste swirled her wine. Because the second I tell people what I actually do, they either want something from me or they start treating me like a museum exhibit. I don't even know what tech companies do. You're safe. She laughed, short and surprised. What do you do? Security, office buildings. I stand around, check badges, make sure nobody steals the good coffee. Riveting. Well, it pays the bills, mostly. The burrata arrived on a white plate with tomatoes so perfect they looked fake. Celeste gestured for him to start. Adrian picked up his fork and tried to figure out the least embarrassing way to eat cheese that probably cost $30. How long have you been alone, Celeste asked. 4 years. That's a long time. Yeah. Do you miss her? The question was too direct, too honest. Adrian should deflect, change the subject, do what he always did when people asked about Sarah. But something about this night, the snow, the wine, the stranger sitting across from him, made lying feel pointless. Every day, he said quietly, but not the way I used to. Celeste nodded slowly. What changed? I stopped expecting the missing to go away, started just carrying it. What? She studied him for a long moment. That's the saddest thing I've heard in months. Sorry. Don't be. Honesty's rare. She took a bite of burrata. Most people lie about being fine. Are you fine? No. The answer came so fast it surprised them both. Adrian set down his fork. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Celeste reached for her wine. I built something I'm proud of. I have more money than I'll ever spend. I wake up every morning in a penthouse overlooking the lake, and I can't remember the last time I felt anything that wasn't just tired. Tired of what? Performing. Pretending. Being the version of myself everyone needs me to be. Adrian understood that more than he wanted to admit. Their entrees arrived. The duck for her, pasta for him. The food was beautiful in a way that made Adrian nervous. Too pretty to eat, like touching it would break some unspoken rule. But Celeste picked up her fork and knife without hesitation, so Adrian did the same. The pasta was perfect. Of course it was. They ate in silence for a while. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the restaurant stayed warm and dim and separate from the rest of the world. Can I ask you something? Celeste said eventually. Sure. Why did you agree to this? The blind date. Adrian twisted pasta around his fork. My coworker wouldn't stop pushing. And I guess I thought maybe she was right, that I should try. Try what? Living, being a person again instead of just Noah's dad. You say that like they're mutually exclusive, aren't they? Celeste shook her head. You can be both. Can you? Adrian looked at her. You just said you're too tired to be yourself. Well, but that's different. Is it? She didn't answer. They finished their meals slowly. The waiter cleared the plates, offered dessert. Celeste ordered 2 coffees without asking if Adrian wanted one. He did. "So," Adrian said when the coffee arrived, "what happens now?"
What do you mean?
This, us. We finish our coffee, pay the bill, walk out into that nightmare. He gestured at the windows, where snow was now piling halfway up the glass. And then what? Pretend this didn't happen? Celeste added cream to her coffee, watching it swirl. Would that be so bad? I don't know. Would it? She looked up at him. I don't usually do this. Eat dinner with strangers? Talk to people like they're real. Adrian wasn't sure what to say to that. Celeste set down her spoon. Can I tell you something? Yeah. I lied earlier about my name. Adrian blinked. What? Celeste isn't my real name. It's close, but not quite. She folded her hands on the table. I use it when I don't want to be recognized. Why would you be recognized? Because my company isn't just successful. It's in the news a lot. And if I told you my real name, you'd probably Google it, and then you'd see the headlines and the stock prices and the profiles. And this, she gestured between them, would stop being real. Adrian processed that. So you lied? Yes. To protect this? Yes. He should be angry, should feel manipulated, but instead he just felt tired. I get it. Celeste looked surprised. You do? Yeah, I tell people my wife died in an accident because it's easier than explaining she got sick and spent 2 years disappearing in front of me. I tell Noah his mom is watching from somewhere safe because I can't explain that sometimes people just leave and don't come back. I lie all the time. Adrian picked up his coffee. At least your lie didn't hurt anyone. You don't know that. I'm still here, aren't I? She smiled, small, uncertain, real. You are. They drank their coffee. Around them, the restaurant began to empty. Couples paid their bills and pulled on coats. Waiters wiped down tables. The storm outside showed no signs of stopping. Adrian checked his phone, 10:30. The babysitter had texted twice asking if he was okay. I should go, he said. Yeah, me too. Neither of them moved. Finally, Celeste flagged down the waiter and handed him a credit card before Adrian could reach for his wallet. The waiter took it and disappeared. You didn't have to do that, Adrian said. I know. I wanted to. Why? Celeste looked at him across the table, this stranger she'd sat down with 3 hours ago. This man she knew almost nothing about except that he was lonely and honest and too tired to pretend otherwise. Because this was the first real conversation I've had in 6 months, she said quietly, and I didn't want it to end with you worrying about money. The waiter returned. Celeste signed the receipt without looking at it. They stood. Adrian grabbed his coat from the back of his chair, an old wool thing he'd owned since college, fraying at the cuffs. Celeste wrapped herself in something sleek and black that probably cost more than his entire wardrobe. Outside, the snow had turned the city into something unrecognizable. Drifts climbed the sides of buildings. Streets disappeared under white. The wind cut through Adrian's coat like it wasn't there. Celeste stood beside him on the sidewalk, staring at the storm. I should have checked the weather. Both of us should have. Can you get home? Adrian looked down Michigan Avenue. No cabs. No buses. The train was 6 blocks away through snow that was already past his ankles. Eventually, where do you live? Logan Square. Celeste pulled out her phone. That's miles from here. I'll manage. Asul. She didn't look convinced. For a moment, she just stood there, snow catching in her dark hair, melting on her expensive coat. Then she made a decision. Come on, she said. What? My car's in the garage across the street. I'll drive you. You don't have to, Adrian. She looked at him. It's a blizzard. You just spent 3 hours having dinner with a stranger who lied about her name. Let me drive you home. He should say no. Should walk to the train, take the long, cold ride back to his apartment, keep this night contained and separate from his real life. But his feet were already numb, and Noah was waiting, and the idea of not being alone for 6 more blocks felt like something he couldn't refuse. Okay, Adrian said. Thank you. They crossed the street together, fighting through snow that was coming down so hard Adrian could barely see the car garage entrance. Inside, everything was concrete and fluorescent lights and the echo of their footsteps. Celeste led him to a black car parked in a reserved spot near the elevator. Something German and sleek that probably cost more than Adrian would make in 5 years. She unlocked it, and they climbed inside. The interior was warm. Leather seats, dashboard that looked like a spaceship. Adrian buckled his seatbelt and tried not to touch anything. Celeste started the engine. Address? He gave it to her. She punched it into the GPS and pulled out of the garage into the storm. Driving was slow. The plows hadn't caught up yet. Cars crawled. Streetlights turned the falling snow orange and ghostly. Celeste drove carefully, hands steady on the wheel, eyes focused on the road. Adrian watched the city slide past the windows. You're good at this. At what? Driving in snow. I grew up in Minnesota. This is nothing. You don't sound like you're from Minnesota. I'm not anymore. They drove in silence for a while. The GPS estimated 25 minutes to Logan Square. At this speed, it would take longer. Can I ask you something? Adrian said. Sure. Your real name, the one you didn't tell me. Is it really that big a deal? Yes. Celeste kept her eyes on the road. Yes? Why? Because if you knew it, you'd look me up. And if you looked me up, you'd see that I'm on the cover of Forbes, that I just closed a deal worth $800 million, that people write articles calling me ruthless and brilliant, and a dozen other things that have nothing to do with who I actually am. She turned onto a side street, wipers working overtime. And then you'd either want something from me or you'd stop seeing me as a person. Wo ist I wouldn't. You say that now. Adrian looked at her profile in the dashboard light. I spent 3 hours talking to you. I still don't care what your company does or how much money you make. I just know you're the first person in 4 years who didn't treat me like a tragedy. Celeste's grip on the wheel tightened slightly. You're not a tragedy. Tell that to everyone else. They turned onto Adrian Street, rows of 2 flats and apartment buildings buried in snow. Cars parked bumper to bumper. A few lights still on in windows where people were probably watching the storm and feeling grateful to be inside. Which one? Celeste asked. Third building on the left. The one with the blue door. She pulled up to the curb and put the car in park, but left the engine running. Adrian unbuckled his seatbelt. Thank you. For dinner. For the ride. For all of it. You're welcome. He should get out, should say goodnight, walk up to his apartment, put this whole strange night behind him. But his hand stayed on the door handle. Celeste? Yeah? Can I see you again? The question hung in the warm car between them. Celeste turned to look at him. Snow melted on the windshield. The engine hummed. Outside, the storm kept burying the city. Why? She asked quietly. Because I had a better time tonight than I've had in years. And I don't think that's just because we both got stood up. Adrian, you don't have to tell me your real name. You don't have to explain your company or your penthouse or any of it. I just... He stopped. I just want to have coffee with you. That's all. Celeste studied his face. Coffee. Coffee. Not dinner, not drinks. Coffee. I can't afford anything else. She almost smiled. What about Noah? What about him? You said you barely have 6 hours of free time. Why spend it with me? Because those 6 hours are usually just me being tired in different locations. I'd rather be tired with you. Celeste looked away, out at the snow. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and handed it to him. Put your number in, she said. Adrian took the phone, typed in his contact info, handed it back. Celeste looked at the screen. Adrian Vale, sami tepai som bochos. That's me. Adrian Vale, who works security and has an 8-year-old son and can't afford the wine I ordered. That's also me. She saved the contact. I'll text you. When? When I'm ready to have coffee with someone who thinks I'm real. Adrian smiled. Okay. He opened the door and stepped out into the snow. Cold hit him immediately. He leaned down to look back into the car. Good night, Celeste. who isn't Celeste. Good night, Adrian. He closed the door and walked toward his building, snow soaking through his boots. Behind him, he heard the car pull away from the curb, tires crunching on fresh powder. He didn't look back. Inside the apartment, the babysitter was asleep on the couch. Adrian paid her, added an extra 20 for staying late, and walked her to the door. Then he checked on Noah, fast asleep, blankets kicked off, one arm hanging off the bed. Adrian pulled the covers back up and stood there for a moment, watching his son breathe. In the kitchen, he made himself tea he didn't drink, sat at the table, stared at his phone. No messages. He didn't expect any, not tonight, but when he finally went to bed an hour later, his phone buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. This is Celeste. I had a good time tonight. Thank you for being honest. Adrian stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. Thank you for sitting down. He set the phone on the nightstand and closed his eyes. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, for the first time in years, Adrian fell asleep smiling. The text came 3 days later. Adrian was at work, standing behind the security desk in the lobby of a downtown office tower, when his phone buzzed. He'd checked it maybe 40 times since that night, casually, like he wasn't waiting for anything in particular, like he hadn't memorized the exact wording of her last message. There's a coffee shop on Armitage, small place, kind of hidden. Tomorrow at 2? He read it twice, then typed back with hands that felt clumsy. I work until 3. Can you do 4? The reply came fast. 4 works. I'll send you the address. Adrian stared at the screen until his supervisor walked past and cleared his throat meaningfully. He shoved the phone in his pocket and tried to focus on the badge scanner in front of him, but his brain was already gone, already trying to figure out what to wear, what to say, whether he should mention that he'd thought about her more than made sense for someone he'd known for 3 hours. The next day dragged. Morning felt like a week. Lunch lasted about 6 years. By the time his shift ended at 3, Adrian was ready to crawl out of his skin. He took the train north, got off at Armitage, and found the coffee shop tucked between a vintage bookstore and a tailor that looked like it hadn't updated its window display since 1987. The kind of place you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. No sign, just a painted window with the words "Brew and Quiet" in fading gold letters. Inside, it was exactly what Celeste promised. Small, hidden, real. Mismatched furniture, exposed brick, shelves crammed with used books nobody had alphabetized. A chalkboard menu that listed 6 drinks and nothing else. 3 customers total, all absorbed in laptops or novels. Celeste sat in the back corner reading something on her phone. She traded the expensive dress for jeans and a sweater, her hair down instead of pulled back. She looked younger, less controlled, almost nervous. Adrian walked over. Hey. She looked up, smiled. Hey. This place is perfect. I know, nobody bothers me here. She gestured at the empty chair. Sit. I already ordered you coffee. Black, right? How did you know? You ordered it black at the restaurant. He sat down, surprised she'd noticed. Good memory. Occupational hazard. A barista appeared with 2 mugs, simple ceramic, no logos, the kind of coffee that smelled like someone cared about it. Adrian wrapped his hands around the warmth and took a sip. It was good. Better than good. So, Celeste said, how was your week? Long, boring. I stood at a desk for 40 hours and watched people come and go. Sounds thrilling. What about you? She hesitated. Busy. Doing what? The usual. Meetings, contracts, putting out fires. Adrian waited for more. She didn't offer it. You're still not going to tell me what your company does, he said. No. Why not? Because the second I do, this stops being about us and starts being about everything else. Adrian took another sip of coffee. Does it ever get exhausting? What? Hiding. Celeste's expression shifted, something guarded falling away for just a second before she caught it. Every day. They sat in silence for a moment. Around them, the coffee shop hummed quietly. Someone turned a page. The espresso machine hissed. Outside, the city moved past the window like it had somewhere important to be. Tell me about Noah, Celeste said finally. Adrian relaxed slightly. Talking about his son was easier than talking about himself. What do you want to know? Everything? What's he like? Smart. Too smart sometimes. He asks questions I don't know how to answer. Like what, Dom? Last week he asked me why the sky is blue. I told him something about light and particles and immediately regretted it, because then he wanted to know what particles are made of, and I barely passed high school science. Celeste smiled. What did you tell him? That we'd look it up together. Then we spent an hour watching YouTube videos about atoms. That's sweet. That's survival. If I say I don't know, he'll ask his teacher, and then I'll get a note home about encouraging curiosity, and I'll feel like a terrible parent. You're not a terrible parent. You don't know that. You've never met him. Celeste looked at him over her mug. I know you drove through a blizzard to get home to him. I know you work a job you hate to keep him fed. I know he's the first thing you mention when someone asks about your life. That's not terrible. That's just tired. Adrian didn't know what to say to that. Does he ask about his mom? Celeste asked quietly. Sometimes. Less now than he used to. What do you tell him? Adrian stared into his coffee. That she loved him. That she got sick. That it wasn't anyone's fault. He paused. I don't tell him that I was terrified the whole time, or that I still don't know if I'm doing any of this right. Nobody knows if they're doing it right. You sound sure about that. I am. Everyone's just guessing and hoping they don't screw up too badly. Adrian looked at her. Is that what you do? With your company? Every single day. And does it work? So far. She set down her mug. But I'm good at pretending I have answers. That's different from actually having them. Yeah, they talked for an hour, then 2. The coffee shop emptied out and refilled with different people. The light outside shifted from afternoon to early evening. Adrian told her about the time Noah got suspended from 2nd grade for correcting his teacher's math, and Celeste laughed so hard she had to put down her mug. She told him about growing up in a town so small it didn't have a stoplight, and Adrian tried to imagine this woman, polished, controlled, clearly wealthy, as a kid in the middle of nowhere. How did you get from there to here? He asked. Scholarships, student loans I just finished paying off last year. 90-hour weeks and about 1,000 mistakes. Doesn't sound like mistakes if you ended up successful. Success just means I made mistakes faster than my competitors. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger. Most days, I still feel like I'm faking it. You're not. How do you know? Because faking it doesn't keep you up at night. Real things do. Indeed. Celeste went quiet. Then she said, You're more insightful than you pretend to be. I'm a security guard who barely finished community college. I'm not insightful. You're wrong. About what? About yourself. Adrian didn't argue, mostly because he didn't know how. Outside, the sun dropped below the buildings. The coffee shop turned on its lights, old Edison bulbs that made everything feel warmer, softer. The barista started wiping down tables. I should go, Adrian said. I told the babysitter I'd be back by 6. Celeste checked her phone. It's almost 7. Damn. He stood reaching for his wallet. What do I owe you? Nothing. I got it, Mize. You paid for dinner too. I know. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Get over it. She stood and grabbed her coat. Come on, I'll walk you to the train. They stepped out into the cold. March in Chicago was just February with worse attitude. The wind cut down Armitage like it had a personal grudge. Adrian shoved his hands in his pockets and tried not to shiver. You need a better coat, Celeste said. I need a lot of things. That one's easier to fix than most. They walked side by side, not quite touching, navigating patches of ice and sidewalk salt. 2 blocks from the train station, Celeste stopped. Adrian? He turned. Yeah, Can I meet him? Meet who? Noah. Adrian blinked. Why? Because you talk about him like he's the best thing that ever happened to you. And I want to see if you're exaggerating. I'm not. Then let me meet him. Adrian's first instinct was to say no, to keep this separate. Celeste in one part of his life, Noah in another, Never the two intersecting. Safer that way, simpler. But then he thought about the way she'd listened when he talked about his son, the way she'd laughed at the suspension story, the way she didn't treat Noah like a complication. "Okay," he said. "When?" "Whenever you want." He likes the zoo. There's a penguin exhibit he's obsessed with. Celeste smiled. "I like penguins." "You're lying. Completely. But I'll pretend for Noah." They exchanged numbers, real ones this time, with names attached. Adrian typed in Celeste, not Celeste, and she saw it and didn't correct him. At the train platform, she stopped again. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For not asking questions I don't want to answer. You'll tell me when you're ready." "What if I'm never ready?" Adrian shrugged. "Then you're never ready. Doesn't change anything." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised them both. She reached out and squeezed his hand once, quickly, before letting go. "See you soon," she said. "See you soon." He watched her walk away, hands in her coat pockets, shoulders hunched against the wind. Then the train came and he got on and tried to stop smiling like an idiot. The zoo trip happened on a Saturday. Adrian told Noah they were meeting a friend, which was technically true and also wildly insufficient. Noah asked 17 questions in the car. Who is she? How do you know her? Is she your girlfriend? Does she like dinosaurs? Does she know about mom? Can we get ice cream after? And Adrian answered the ones he could and deflected the rest. They met Celeste in the entrance. She showed up in jeans and sneakers and a coat that still probably cost more than Adrian's monthly rent, but at least looked like something a normal person might wear. Noah stared at her. "You're pretty, he announced. Adrian wanted to sink into the pavement. "Noah." "What? She is." Celeste crouched down to his level. "Thank you. You're pretty smart looking. Your dad says you know everything about penguins." "Not everything, but a lot." "Think you can teach me?" Noah's face lit up. "Yeah." They spent 3 hours at the zoo. Noah dragged them from exhibit to exhibit, narrating every fact he'd ever learned about Arctic animals. Celeste listened like he was presenting a doctoral thesis. She asked questions. She crouched next to him at the glass to watch the penguins dive. She didn't check her phone once. Adrian hung back, watching them. Watching his son lean against the stranger's shoulder to point at something in the water. Watching her smile when Noah got excited. Watching something careful and protected start to crack open in his chest. They got ice cream after, even though it was 40 degrees outside. Noah ordered chocolate with gummy bears. Celeste got vanilla. Adrian got nothing because someone had to be the responsible adult. "Dad doesn't like sweets," Noah explained to Celeste, mouth full of ice cream. "That's tragic," she said seriously. "I know, right?" They sat on a bench near the harbor, watching boats that weren't running yet because winter hadn't officially let go. Noah swung his legs and devoured his ice cream like it might escape. Celeste ate hers slowly, carefully, like she was still figuring out if she was allowed to enjoy it. "This was fun," Noah said eventually. "Can we do it again?" Adrian opened his mouth, but Celeste answered first. "If your dad says it's okay." Noah turned to Adrian with the kind of hope that made lying impossible. "Can we?" "Yeah," Adrian said quietly. "We can." Noah grinned and went back to his ice cream. Celeste caught Adrian's eye over his son's head. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. After that, it became a pattern. Coffee twice a week when Adrian could manage it. The zoo again. A museum where Noah spent 40 minutes staring at dinosaur bones, and Celeste bought him a book from the gift shop that cost $30 and made Adrian's stomach hurt. A pizza place in Noah's neighborhood where the slices were bigger than his head, and Celeste ate 2 of them without pretending to be dainty about it. Slowly, carefully, she became part of their lives. Adrian noticed the small things. The way she remembered Noah's favorite color. The way she asked about his spelling tests. The way she showed up on time, every time, like being there mattered. He also noticed the things she didn't say. She never talked about her work beyond vague mentions of meetings. Never invited them to her place. Never mentioned friends or family or any part of her life that existed outside the hours she spent with them. One night after Noah was asleep and Celeste was sitting on Adrian's couch drinking tea from a chipped mug, he finally asked, "Why don't you ever talk about your life?" She looked up from the mug. What do you mean? I've told you everything. My job, my apartment, my dead wife, my kid, my terrible credit score. You know what I eat for breakfast. But I don't know where you live or what you do all day, or if you have anyone waiting for you when you leave here. Celeste set down the mug carefully. I don't. Don't what? Have anyone waiting. Adrian sat down next to her, not close enough to crowd her, but close enough to matter. Why not? Because I'm good at my job and terrible at people? Because I spent 10 years building something that required sacrificing everything else? Because by the time I looked up from my desk, everyone I used to know had moved on. She stared at the mug in her hands. I'm 30 years old, and I can't remember the last time someone asked me how I was doing and actually wanted the answer. How are you doing? Honestly? Yeah. I'm exhausted and lonely and terrified that I'll wake up one day and realize I built the wrong life. Adrian didn't know what to say to that, so he just sat there, close enough that their shoulders were almost touching, and let the silence do the work. After a while, Celeste said, Can I tell you something? Always. This, you and Noah, is the best part of my week. Maybe my whole life right now, and that scares me. Why? Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone's person without screwing it up. You're not screwing it up. Yet. Adrian turned to look at her. Celeste, you showed up to a zoo in March and spent 3 hours learning about penguins because my kid asked you to. You ate pizza that cost $6 and didn't complain once. You're sitting in my terrible apartment drinking tea and telling me the truth. You're doing fine. She met his eyes. Am I? Yeah. Something shifted in the space between them, something that had been building for weeks, but neither of them had been brave enough to name. Celeste leaned forward slightly. Adrian didn't move back. I should go eat, she said quietly. You don't have to. I know. But if I stay, I'm going to kiss you, and I don't know if that's a good idea. Adrian's heart kicked against his ribs. Why not? Well, because I don't want to ruin this. Whatever this is. What if it's already more than you think? She studied his face. Is it? I don't know. Maybe. Celeste stood up. Adrian stood too. They faced each other in his tiny living room, surrounded by Noah's drawings on the fridge and bills on the counter and all the evidence of Adrian's small, ordinary life. I'm not good at this, she said. At what? Letting people in. I noticed, but I want to try. Then try. She kissed him. It wasn't smooth or practiced or perfect. It was tentative and careful and a little bit scared. Adrian's hands found her waist. Her fingers curled into his shirt. They stood there, kissing like teenagers who didn't know what came next, until Celeste pulled back and rested her forehead against his. Okay, she whispered. Okay, what? Okay, I'm trying. Adrian smiled. How's it feel? Terrifying. Good. She kissed him again, longer this time, and Adrian stopped thinking about whether it was a good idea and just let himself fall. When she finally left, late, too late, but not as late as either of them wanted, Adrian stood in the doorway and watched her walk to her car. She turned back once, smiled, then drove away. Inside, Adrian cleaned up the tea mugs and checked on Noah and got ready for bed. He was almost asleep when his phone buzzed. I'm glad I sat down at your table. Adrian typed back in the dark. Me too. The weeks that followed felt like something out of someone else's life. Celeste started staying later, started showing up for dinner instead of just coffee, started sitting on the floor with Noah to build block towers and helping Adrian wash dishes and falling asleep on his couch while they watched movies neither of them cared about. She brought groceries one night, actual groceries, not the expensive kind, just normal food from the store near Adrian's apartment. She cooked pasta while Noah did homework at the kitchen table, and Adrian tried not to stare at her like she was some kind of miracle. You don't have to do this, he said, leaning against the counter. I know. Then why are you? She looked at him over her shoulder. Because I want to. You're a CEO. Don't you have people who do this for you? Dong. I have people who do everything for me. That's the problem. She stirred the sauce. I forgot what it felt like to do something just because it mattered. Noah wandered over, drawn by the smell. What are we having? Spaghetti? Celeste said. With meatballs? Obviously. Can I help? You can set the table. Noah grabbed plates from the cabinet, the same mismatched set Adrian had been using since college, and arranged them carefully. Celeste served the pasta. Adrian poured water into plastic cups because all the glasses were dirty. They ate together at the small kitchen table, knees bumping, elbows crowding, and it felt like the most normal thing in the world. After dinner, Noah asked Celeste to read him a bedtime story. She said yes before Adrian could tell him not to bother her. They disappeared into his room, and Adrian cleaned up the kitchen alone, listening to her voice through the wall reading about dragons and knights and magic swords. When she came back out 20 minutes later, Noah was asleep. You didn't have to do that, Adrian said. I wanted to. She sat down on the couch. He asked me if I was going to be his mom. Adrian froze. What did you say? I said I wasn't his mom, but that I cared about him a lot. And what did he say? He said that was okay, that he just wanted to make sure I wasn't going anywhere. Adrian's chest tightened. Celeste, I'm not going anywhere. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Adrian sat down next to her. You can't promise him that. You can't promise me that. Why not? Because people leave. They don't mean to, but they do. And I can't. He stopped, swallowed hard. I can't watch him lose someone again. Celeste turned to face him. I'm not Sarah. I know. Then stop treating me like I'm going to disappear. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. I'm here. Right now. I keep showing up. What else do I have to do? Adrian didn't have an answer. Celeste reached for his hand. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I'm not running. What if you have to? What if I don't? They sat there in the quiet apartment, holding hands like it could keep the world from changing. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, everything felt fragile and new and impossibly precious. Stay tonight, Adrian said quietly. Adrian, not like that. Just stay. Sleep on the couch. Let me wake up and know you're still here. Celeste looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Adrian found her a blanket and a pillow that wasn't terrible. She kicked off her shoes and curled up on the couch, and he sat in the chair across from her until her breathing evened out, and he was sure she was asleep. Then he went to bed and lay awake for an hour, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. When he woke up the next morning, she was still there. She stayed the next weekend too, and the one after that. Always on the couch, always careful, always making sure Noah saw her as someone stable instead of temporary. But late at night, after Noah was asleep, she'd sit with Adrian and they'd talk about things they'd never told anyone else. She told him about the panic attacks she used to get before board meetings, about the therapist she saw twice a month and lied to about being fine, about the penthouse that felt more like a hotel than a home. Adrian told her about the nights he'd cried in the hospital bathroom while Sarah slept, about the fear that he'd forgotten what she looked like, about the guilt of being happy again. One night, Celeste said, I need to tell you something. Adrian's stomach dropped. Okay. My company is about to announce a major deal. It's going to be all over the news. My face will be everywhere. She took a breath. And when that happens, you're going to know who I really am. Does it matter? It might. To you. To Noah. Try me. She pulled out her phone, typed something, then handed it to him. Adrian looked at the screen. It was a Forbes article from 6 months ago. The headline read, Celeste Arden, the tech CEO who built an empire before 30. Below it was a photo of the woman sitting next to him. Same face, different clothes, hair pulled back, expression controlled, everything about her carefully constructed. He scrolled down. Read about her company, something to do with artificial intelligence and data security, and contracts worth hundreds of millions. Read about her reputation as brilliant and ruthless. Read quotes from competitors who called her intimidating. Then he handed the phone back. Okay, he said. Celeste stared at him. That's it? Just okay? What else do you want me to say? I don't know. That's too much. That you can't do this, that you're… Celeste? He took her hand. I don't care about any of that. You should. Why? Because you're successful? Because people write articles about you? Because you make more money than I'll ever see? He shook his head. None of that changes who you are when you're here. With us. But what if it does? What if the world sees me one way and you can't unsee it? Then I'll remind myself that the world doesn't know you. I do. She looked like she might cry. How are you this okay with everything? I'm not. I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of losing you because I was too afraid to try. Celeste kissed him then, harder than before, more desperate, like she was trying to prove something to both of them. Adrian kissed her back and tried not to think about everything that could still go wrong. When they finally pulled apart, she said, "The announcement is in 2 weeks." Okay, there will be press, interviews, photos. Okay, I might have to travel, a lot. Adrian's chest tightened, but he kept his voice steady. For how long? I don't know. The deal is international. Could be a few weeks, could be longer. Can you say no? To a deal worth $800 million? To everything that comes with it. Celeste went quiet. Then she said, I don't know. And that, Adrian realized, was the real problem. The announcement came on a Tuesday. Adrian was at work when his phone started buzzing, text after text from numbers he didn't recognize, notifications from news apps he'd never downloaded, missed calls from reporters who'd somehow gotten his information. He stared at the screen, watching it light up over and over until his supervisor told him to put it away or go home. He went home. Noah was at school. The apartment was quiet. Adrian sat on the couch and finally opened one of the articles. The photos were everywhere. Celeste in a tailored suit standing in front of her company's headquarters. Celeste shaking hands with executives whose names Adrian didn't recognize. Celeste on a stage somewhere, mid-speech, looking like someone who'd never sat on his kitchen floor building block towers with an 8-year-old. The headlines called her visionary, ruthless, unstoppable. They talked about the deal like it was inevitable, like she'd just pulled off something most people couldn't even imagine attempting. Adrian read 3 articles before he had to stop. Not because they were wrong, they probably weren't, but because every word made the distance between his life and hers feel wider. His phone rang. Celeste. He answered. Hey, are you okay? Her voice was tight, controlled, the version of her that did interviews. Yeah, you? No, I tried to warn you, but the PR team moved the timeline up and I couldn't. She stopped. I'm sorry. I should have called earlier. It's fine. It's not fine. Your phone's probably going crazy. Little bit? Don't answer anyone. I'll have my team handle it. Adrian leaned back against the couch. Handle what? The reporters. They're going to dig. Try to find out who you are, who Noah is. I won't let them. Celeste, I mean it, Adrian. I'll shut down every story, every photo, every mention. You and Noah stay out of this. That's not what I'm worried about. She went quiet for a second. Then what are you worried about? You. Flying halfway across the world to close a deal that's already done. It's not done. There are negotiations, contracts, meetings with international boards. When do you leave? The pause told him everything. Tomorrow night, she said finally. Adrian's chest went hollow. Tomorrow. I know. I tried to push it back, but the other side won't wait. If I don't go, we lose everything. How long? 3 weeks? Maybe 4. 4 weeks. Adrian, I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not when $800 million and 2,000 jobs are on the line. Adrian closed his eyes. Does Noah know? Not yet. I wanted to tell him in person. When? Tonight, if that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Another pause. Then Celeste said, Are we okay? Adrian wanted to say yes. Wanted to tell her it didn't matter, that 4 weeks was nothing, that he'd wait forever if he had to. But the words stuck in his throat. I don't know, he said quietly. Adrian, I'll see you tonight. He hung up before she could respond. For a long time, Adrian just sat there. The apartment felt too small and too empty all at once. He thought about calling someone, his sister maybe, or Rebecca from work. But he didn't know what he'd say. That he'd fallen for someone who lived in a different universe? That he'd convinced himself it could work despite every piece of evidence to the contrary? His phone buzzed again. Another article. Another headline. He turned it off and went to pick up Noah from school. Celeste showed up at 6 with takeout and an expression Adrian had never seen before, something caught between determination and desperation. Noah ran to her like always, threw his arms around her waist, started talking about a project he was doing on the solar system. She listened, smiled, acted like nothing was wrong. They ate dinner at the kitchen table, Chinese food from the place on the corner that knew Adrian's order by heart. Noah talked non-stop about Jupiter's moons and whether Pluto should still count as a planet. Celeste asked questions. Adrian pushed lo mein around his plate and tried to figure out how to prepare his son for what was coming. After dinner, Noah went to brush his teeth. Celeste started clearing plates. "You don't have to do that," Adrian said. "I know." "Celeste, let me do this, please." So he did. He let her wash dishes in his tiny kitchen while he dried them and put them away, and neither of them said what they were both thinking. When Noah came back in his pajamas, Celeste sat down on the couch and patted the space next to her. "Come here, buddy. I need to talk to you about something." Noah climbed up, instantly wary. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I have to go on a trip for work." "Well, where?" "Far away, Europe and Asia, some other places too." "For how long?" Celeste glanced at Adrian, then back at Noah. "A few weeks." Noah's face fell. "You're leaving?" "Just for a little while. But you'll miss my art show." Adrian's stomach dropped. He'd forgotten about the art show, some school thing next week where kids displayed their projects and parents walked around pretending to understand abstract crayon drawings. Celeste's expression cracked. "When is it?" Next Friday." Noah's voice got smaller. "You said you'd come." "I know. I'm so sorry, Noah. I tried to change the dates, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because a lot of people are depending on me to do this job." "What about us? We're depending on you too." The words hit like a punch. Celeste looked at Adrian, helpless, and he didn't know what to tell her. "I'll be back as soon as I can," she said to Noah. "And we can video chat every day. You can show me your project on the computer." "What? It's not the same." "I know." Noah crossed his arms. "This is stupid." "Noah," Adrian said quietly, "don't be rude." "But it is stupid. She's leaving and she doesn't have to." "Yes, she does." "Why?" "Because it's her job, and sometimes adults have to do things they don't want to do." "That's a dumb reason." "Maybe, but it's the truth." Noah looked at Celeste. "Do you want to go?" She took a breath. "No." "Then don't. It's not that simple." "Why not?" Celeste didn't have an answer for that. Or maybe she did, and just couldn't say it in front of an 8-year-old who wouldn't understand that sometimes the things you build matter more than the things you love. Noah slid off the couch. "I'm going to bed." "Noah, I don't want to talk anymore." He walked to his room and closed the door. Not slammed. Noah never slammed doors, but closed it firmly enough to make a point. Adrian and Celeste sat in the silence he left behind. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "He'll get over it." "Will he?" "I don't know." Celeste put her face in her hands. "I'm screwing this up. You're doing your job." "My job is ruining everything." Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to tell her it would be fine, that they'd make it work, that 4 weeks was nothing. But he'd already told Noah that lie, and he didn't have the energy to tell it again. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. Celeste looked up. "That you understand. That you'll wait. That this isn't the end of everything we've been building. Is it?" "No." "You sure about that?" "Yes. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're choosing the deal over us." "That's not fair." "Maybe not. But it's how it feels." Celeste stood up, pacing the small living room like a caged animal. "You think I want this? You think I want to leave?" "I think you're going to. So yeah, some part of you must want it." "That's not..." She stopped. "This deal has been in the works for 2 years. 2 years of negotiations and contracts and fighting with people who thought I couldn't pull it off. I can't just walk away from that." "Why not?" "Because it's who I am. It's what I've built." "And what about what we're building?" Celeste froze. "That's not fair." "You keep saying that, but you're still leaving." "Adrian, I watched my wife die, Celeste. I watched her disappear piece by piece for 2 years while I stood there and couldn't do anything to stop it. And when she was gone, I swore I'd never let Noah get attached to someone who might leave. Adrian's voice cracked. But I let him get attached to you. I let myself get attached to you. And now you're leaving anyway. I'm coming back. Are you? Or are you going to get on that plane and realize your real life is out there and this, he gestured around the apartment, was just something you did when you were bored? But that's not what this is. Then what is it? Celeste opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know how to do both. I don't know how to be the person who closes deals and the person who shows up to art shows. I've spent my entire adult life choosing work over everything else, and I don't know how to stop. So don't stop. Just choose differently this time. It's $800 million. What? It's 3 weeks of Noah's life. 3 weeks he'll never get back. 3 weeks where he'll go to bed wondering if you meant it when you said you cared about him. That's not fair. Life's not fair. You told me that, remember? They stared at each other across the small room. All the things they'd built over the past few months, the dinners, the zoo trips, the late-night conversations, felt fragile suddenly, like one wrong move would shatter everything. I have to go, Celeste said quietly. To Europe or out of here? Both. Adrian nodded slowly. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What else do you want me to say? That I'll be waiting when you get back? That Noah will forgive you? That this won't change anything? Would any of that be true? Adrian thought about lying, about making this easier for both of them. But he'd already told her the truth was the only thing that mattered. I don't know, he said. Celeste grabbed her coat from the back of the chair. I'm sorry for all of it. Me too. She walked to the door, then stopped with her hand on the knob. Adrian? Yeah? If I asked you to trust me, to believe that I'm coming back and that this isn't the end, would you? Adrian looked at her. At this woman who'd sat down at his table in a snowstorm and somehow become essential. Who'd learned about penguins and cooked pasta and read bedtime stories like she'd been doing it her whole life. I want to, he said. But you don't. But I don't know if I can. Celeste nodded once, sharp and final. Then she opened the door and left. Adrian stood there for a long time after she was gone. Then he went to check on Noah. His son was still awake, staring at the ceiling. You okay? Adrian asked from the doorway. Is she coming back? She says she is. Do you believe her? Adrian sat on the edge of Noah's bed. I want to, but you don't know. No, I don't know. Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mom didn't come back. Adrian's throat went tight. No, she didn't. Is Celeste going to be like Mom? I don't think so, but I can't promise you that. Then why did you let me like her? It was the question Adrian had been asking himself for weeks, the one he didn't have a good answer for. Because you deserve to, he said finally, because she made you happy, and I thought maybe that was enough. Was it? I don't know yet. Noah rolled over to face the wall. I'm tired. Okay, get some sleep. Dad? Yeah? I hope she comes back. Me too, buddy. Me too. Adrian turned off the light and closed the door. Then he went to his own room and lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how something that felt so right could go wrong so fast. His phone buzzed. A text from Celeste. I meant what I said. I'm coming back. Adrian stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. I hope you're right. He didn't hear from her again that night. The next day, Adrian went through the motions. Got Noah to school. Went to work. Stood behind his desk scanning badges and trying not to check his phone every 5 minutes. His supervisor asked if he was okay. Adrian said he was fine. They both knew it was a lie. That night, he made dinner for Noah, mac and cheese from a box because cooking felt impossible. They ate in silence. Noah didn't ask about Celeste. Adrian didn't bring her up. After dinner, Noah did homework while Adrian cleaned the kitchen. The apartment felt emptier than usual, like something essential had been removed and they were both trying to pretend they didn't notice. At 8 o'clock, Noah's tablet chimed, a video call. Noah grabbed it, and Celeste's face filled the screen. She was sitting in what looked like an airport lounge, makeup perfect, hair pulled back, every inch the CEO from those articles. "Hey, buddy," she said, smiling. Noah's expression was careful. "Hi. I wanted to call before my flight. Say goodbye properly." "Okay." "Are you still mad at me?" Noah shrugged. "A little." "That's fair." Celeste's smile wobbled. "I'm mad at me too." "Then why are you going?" "Because I made promises to a lot of people, and I have to keep them, even when it's hard." "You made promises to us too." "I know, and I'm going to keep those too. I'm going to call you every day and answer every question about your solar system project and be here, even if I'm not there, for your art show. It's not the same. I know, but it's what I can do right now." Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Will you really come back?" "Yes." "Promise?" "I promise." "Okay. Can I talk to your dad?" Noah handed the tablet to Adrian without a word and went to his room. Adrian looked at the screen. Celeste looked back. "Hey," she said. "Hey. I'm about to board. I just wanted to..." She stopped. "I don't know what I wanted. To hear your voice, I guess." "You're hearing it. Adrian, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry. I'm scared." "Of what?" "That you're going to get on that plane and realize you don't need this. Us. That your real life is out there and we're just a detour." "You're not a detour, Set. Then what are we?" Celeste looked away from the camera. "You're the first thing I think about when I wake up. The reason I leave the office early. The only place I feel like I can breathe." She looked back at him. "You're everything I didn't know I needed." "Then why are you leaving?" "Because I don't know how to not be this person. The one who gets on planes and closes deals and builds things that matter." "We matter." Oh. "I know. I know you do. But I don't know how to choose you over everything I've spent 10 years building. Maybe you don't have to choose. Maybe you just have to figure out what matters more." Celeste's eyes were bright. "What if I choose wrong?" "Then you choose wrong, but at least you chose." An announcement came over the speakers in the background. "Final boarding." "I have to go," Celeste said. "I know." "Adrian, just go. We'll be here when you get back." "Will you?" Adrian wanted to say yes, wanted to promise her that nothing would change, that 4 weeks was nothing, that they'd be exactly where she left them. But he'd already told her the truth was the only thing that mattered. "I don't know," he said. Celeste nodded. "That's fair. Be safe." "I will. Tell Noah I love him. Tell him yourself." "I love you too." The words landed hard and unexpected. Adrian stared at the screen. "Celeste, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." Then the call ended. Adrian sat there holding the tablet, staring at his own reflection in the blank screen. His hands were shaking. Noah appeared in the doorway. "Is she gone?" "Yeah, she's gone." "Did she say when she's coming back?" 3 or 4 weeks. Noah climbed onto the couch next to Adrian. "That's a long time." "Yeah, it is. Is she it?" They sat together in the quiet apartment. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, everything felt suspended, like they were waiting for something that might never come. "Dad?" Noah said eventually. "Yeah?" "Do you love her?" Adrian didn't answer right away. He thought about the question, about Celeste sitting at his table in a snowstorm, about her learning penguin facts and cooking pasta and reading bedtime stories, about the way she looked at him like he was more than just a security guard with a dead wife and too many bills. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I do." "Did you tell her?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm scared." "Of what?" "That it won't be enough." Noah leaned against his shoulder. "Mom used to say being scared just means something matters." Adrian's chest ached. "She was right." "Then maybe you should tell her." "Maybe." They sat there until Noah fell asleep against him. Then Adrian carried his son to bed, tucked him in, and stood in the doorway watching him breathe. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. Another text from Celeste. "I meant what I said. All of it." Adrian stared at the message. Then he typed back slowly. I know. I meant it too. He hit send before he could change his mind. 3 minutes later, his phone rang. Celeste. He answered. I thought you were on a plane. I am. We haven't taken off yet. Her voice was quiet, rough. Did you mean it? Yeah. Say it. Celeste, please, say it. Adrian closed his eyes. I love you. He heard her breath catch. I'm coming back. I swear I'm coming back. I know. 4 weeks, maybe less. Okay? Wait for me. I will. Promise. I promise. The line went quiet except for background noise, announcements, other passengers, the hum of the plane's engines. I have to turn off my phone, Celeste said. Okay. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For giving me something worth coming back to. Then the call ended for real. Adrian stood in Noah's doorway for a long time, phone in his hand, trying to believe that 4 weeks wasn't forever, that she meant what she said. That love was enough to bridge the distance between her world and his. But belief was hard when the apartment was this quiet, and the space she'd occupied felt this empty. He went to bed and didn't sleep. Just lay there in the dark, counting down the days until she came home. If she came home. The first week felt like a year. Celeste called every day like she promised. Video calls at odd hours because of time zones. Her face pixelated and tired on Noah's tablet screen. She asked about homework and spelling tests and whether the solar system project was coming together. Noah answered in single words at first, still hurt, still guarded. But by the 4th day, he started talking more. Told her about the papier-mâché Saturn he was building. Asked her questions about where she was, what the cities looked like, whether she'd seen anything cool. Adrian watched these calls from a distance, leaning in the doorway or washing dishes in the next room. He could hear Celeste's voice, strained, exhausted, trying so hard to sound present when she was 7,000 miles away. After Noah went to bed, she'd call Adrian's phone. They'd talk for 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, about nothing and everything. She told him about the meetings that ran 16 hours straight, the hotel rooms that all looked the same, the negotiators who kept moving deadlines. He told her about the leak in the bathroom sink he couldn't afford to fix, the parent-teacher conference where Noah's teacher said he was doing great but seemed distracted, the nights when the apartment felt too quiet. One night, 11 days in, Celeste called at 2 a.m. Chicago time. Adrian was already awake. He'd stopped sleeping well the day she left. Hey, he said, voice rough. Did I wake you? No. Liar. What's wrong? Celeste was quiet for a moment. I hate this. The deal? All of it. The meetings, the hotels, being away from you. I sat in a conference room today for 9 hours arguing about contract language, and all I could think about was Noah's art show. When is it again? Friday, 2 days from now. She laughed, but it sounded broken. I'm on the other side of the planet, and he made me promise I'd watch on video chat. He'll understand if you can't. No, he won't, and he shouldn't have to. Adrian sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes. Celeste, I'm trying to move the Amsterdam meeting. If I can get it done by Thursday, I can fly back Friday morning, make the art show, and be back in Europe by Sunday. That's insane. I know. Well, you'll be on a plane for 30 hours and 3 days. I know. Why? Because I made him a promise. And because if I don't show up for this, I prove you right. Adrian's chest tightened. Right about what? That I'll always choose the deal. That this is just something I do when I'm bored. That I don't actually care enough to make the hard choice. I never said that. But you thought it. Adrian couldn't argue because she was right. Can you actually move the meeting? He asked. I don't know. I'm trying. But the Dutch delegation is being difficult, and if I push too hard, I risk blowing the whole thing. Then don't push. Adrian, I mean it. Don't risk $800 million for a second-grade art show. He's your son. How can you say that? Because I've already explained to him 100 times that sometimes adults can't keep promises. He'll survive being disappointed by you. I'm not sure he'll survive watching you destroy something you worked 2 years to build just to prove a point. Celeste went quiet. Adrian could hear noise in the background, voices, probably other people in her hotel. "Where are you?" he asked. "Bar, downstairs. Couldn't sleep." "Are you drinking?" "Little bit." "Celeste, don't. I know it's stupid. I know I have meetings in 5 hours. I just needed to hear your voice, and the hotel room felt like a cage." Adrian lay back down, holding the phone to his ear. "What do you want me to say? That you miss me. That this isn't a mistake. That when I come home, you'll still be there. I miss you. This isn't a mistake. We'll still be here. Promise?" "Yeah, I promise." He heard her breathe out slowly. "I'm so tired, Adrian. I know, yeah. Not just from the flights and the meetings. I'm tired of being this person. The one who's always on, always performing, always 10 steps ahead of everyone else. I used to love it. Now it just feels empty." "Then stop." "I can't just stop." "Why not?" "Because 2,000 people depend on me to keep this company running. Because if I walk away, everything I built falls apart." "Maybe it's supposed to fall apart." "That's easy for you to say, ma'am." Adrian flinched. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You don't have anything riding on this. No board breathing down your neck, no investors questioning every decision, no legacy to protect." "You're right. I don't. I've got a kid and a job that pays barely enough and an apartment with a leaking sink. But at least when I go to bed at night, I know what I'm doing matters to the people I love. That's not fair. You keep saying that, but you're the one who got on the plane." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. "I should go," Celeste said finally. "Yeah, you should. Adrian, get some sleep. You've got meetings in 5 hours. He hung up before she could respond. For a long time, he just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like an asshole and knowing he was right, and hating that both things could be true at once. His phone buzzed. A text. "I'm sorry." "You didn't deserve that." Adrian stared at it, then typed back. "Neither did you." "I'm sorry too. Are we okay?" He thought about lying, about saying yes to make it easier, but they'd already agreed that truth was the only thing that mattered. "I don't know." "Are we?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I'm trying to be." Adrian closed his eyes. "That's all I'm asking." He didn't hear from her again that night. The next day was Thursday. Adrian took Noah to school, went to work, came home and made dinner. Normal routine, normal life, except nothing felt normal anymore. At 7 o'clock, Noah's art show started at school. Parents crowded the hallways looking at construction paper collages and potato print paintings. Noah's solar system hung in the corner, a mobile made of painted styrofoam balls and wire hangers that spun slowly under the fluorescent lights. Adrian stood next to it, phone in hand, video call connected to Celeste somewhere over the Atlantic. "Can you see it?" Noah asked, holding the phone up. Celeste's face filled the screen, grainy, pixelated but smiling. "I can see it. Is that Saturn?" "Yeah, I made the rings out of cardboard." "It's amazing, buddy. You did such a good job." Noah beamed. Other parents glanced over, probably wondering why this kid was FaceTiming during the art show, but Noah didn't care. He walked Celeste through every planet, explaining what he'd learned, pointing out details she couldn't possibly see through the terrible connection. Adrian watched his son's face light up and felt something crack open in his chest. When the show ended and they were walking to the car, Noah said, "I wish she was really here." "I know. But it was still good that she called." "Yeah, it was." "Do you think she'll come home soon?" Adrian unlocked the car. "I don't know, maybe." "I hope so. I miss her." "Me too, buddy." That night, after Noah was asleep, Adrian's phone rang. Celeste. "Hey," he answered. "Hey, I'm at the airport." "Which one?" "Amsterdam, waiting for my flight back to London." "How'd the meeting go?" "We closed it, the whole deal. It's done." Adrian sat up. "Done? Like finished done?" "Yeah, signed the contracts an hour ago. It's official." "Celeste, that's... Congratulations, that's huge." "Thanks." But she didn't sound happy. She sounded exhausted. "What's wrong?" Adrian asked. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know. He heard an announcement in the background, garbled and distant. I spent 2 years building toward this moment. And now that it's here, all I can think about is that I missed Noah's art show for real. That I watched it on a phone screen while standing in a conference room between meetings. He didn't care. He was just happy you called. But I cared. I wanted to be there. I wanted to stand next to you in that hallway and see his face light up and be part of it. You still can. Next time. What if there isn't a next time? What if I keep choosing wrong and one day I turn around and you're both gone? Adrian didn't know what to say to that. When are you coming home? He asked instead. That's why I'm calling. I have a choice to make. What kind of choice? The London office wants me there for a week. Transition meetings, press interviews, victory lap stuff. My team says I should do it, that it's important for the company's image. Adrian's stomach dropped. Okay. Or I can get on a plane tonight and be home by tomorrow afternoon. What do you want to do? I want to come home. I want to walk into your apartment and hug Noah and fall asleep on your terrible couch and wake up knowing I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Then do that. Just sweet. Adrian, my board is expecting me in London. If I don't show, it looks bad. So look bad. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You're choosing right now, London or home, the company or us. You can't do both. Why not? Because at some point you have to decide what you're willing to lose. And if you get on that plane to London, you're deciding. Celeste went quiet. Adrian could hear her breathing, could picture her standing in some airport terminal surrounded by strangers, trying to figure out what the right answer was. I'm scared, she said finally. Of what? That if I choose you, I'll regret it. That I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd stayed, if I'd kept building, if I'd been the person everyone expected me to be. And if you choose London, then I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what I gave up. So you're screwed either way. Basically, Adrian leaned back against the headboard. Can I tell you something? Yeah. 4 years ago, Sarah was lying in a hospital bed. The doctors told me she had maybe a week left, maybe less. And I had this moment where I could either sit next to her and hold her hand while she died, or I could leave Noah with my sister and go to work because we needed the money, and I'd already missed 2 weeks of shifts. Adrian's throat tightened. I went to work. Adrian's throat. I told myself it was the responsible choice, that Sarah would understand, that providing for Noah mattered more than sitting in a room watching someone I loved disappear. And maybe I was right. Maybe it was the smart choice. But I think about that decision every single day. I think about the hours I wasn't there, and I hate myself for it. Celeste was crying. He could hear it in her breathing. I'm not telling you what to choose, Adrian continued. I can't do that. But I can tell you that 4 years from now, you're going to remember this moment, and you're going to have to live with whatever you decide. That's a lot of pressure. Yeah, it is. Another announcement came through the airport speakers. That's my flight to London, Celeste said quietly. Boarding in 20 minutes. Okay. Adrian? Yeah? If I get on that plane, are we done? He wanted to say no. Wanted to tell her he'd wait forever, that one more week didn't matter, that he understood. But Noah's face flashed through his mind, the way he'd looked standing in the hallway holding that phone, trying so hard to be brave about her being gone. I don't know, Adrian said honestly. That's fair. Celeste, I have to go. I have to make a decision. I know. I love you. I love you too. The call ended. Adrian sat there at the dark, holding his phone, waiting for it to ring again. Waiting for her to call back and tell him which flight she'd chosen. Waiting for the future to reveal itself. An hour passed. Then 2. His phone stayed silent. At midnight, he gave up and tried to sleep. Failed. Lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through every possible outcome. She got on the plane to London, and that was it. They were done. She got on the plane home and her board fired her, and she spent the rest of her life resenting him. She stood in that terminal, unable to choose, and missed both flights and ended up stuck in Amsterdam forever. At 3 a.m, his phone buzzed. A text from Celeste. I'm on a plane. Nothing else. No explanation. No flight number. Just those 4 words. Adrian stared at them until his eyes burned. He typed back, "Which one?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. Adrian threw the phone across the room and immediately regretted it. Went to pick it up. Screen was cracked but still working. No new messages. He got out of bed, went to the kitchen, made coffee he didn't drink. Stood at the window watching the city wake up, wondering if she was 30,000 feet above the Atlantic flying toward him or away from him. At 6 o'clock, Noah shuffled out of his room. "Why are you awake?" "Couldn't sleep." "Is Celeste coming home?" "I don't know." "Did you ask her?" "Yeah." "What did she say?" Adrian looked at his son. "She said she's on a plane." "Oh, which plane?" "She didn't tell me." Noah climbed onto this counter stool. "That's dumb." "Yeah, it is. When will we know?" "I guess when she lands, or doesn't." They sat in silence. Adrian finally drank some of the coffee. It was terrible, burned and bitter and exactly what he deserved. "Dad?" Noah said eventually. "Yeah." "If she doesn't come home, are you going to be sad?" Adrian thought about lying, about telling his son he'd be fine, that they'd be fine, that they didn't need anyone else. But Noah had already learned the hard way that people leave and don't come back. "Yeah," Adrian said. "I'm going to be really sad." "Me too." "I know, buddy. But we'll be okay, right?" Adrian pulled Noah into a hug. "Yeah, we'll be okay. Yeah." They made breakfast together, scrambled eggs and toast, neither of them very hungry. Noah got dressed for school. Adrian packed his lunch. Normal Friday morning routine, except nothing about it felt normal. At drop-off, Noah's teacher asked if everything was all right. Adrian said they were fine. Another lie. He was getting good at those. Work was impossible. Adrian stood behind his desk scanning badges and checking his phone every 30 seconds. His supervisor asked twice if he needed to go home. Adrian said no because going home meant sitting in that empty apartment waiting for news that might never come. At noon, his phone rang. Unknown number. Adrian answered so fast he almost dropped it. "Hello?" "Mr. Vale?" A woman's voice, professional, unfamiliar. "Yes? Oh. This is Sarah Chen. I'm calling from Vertex Airlines regarding a passenger emergency contact notification." Adrian's heart stopped. "What happened?" "Nothing to be alarmed about. We're calling because you're listed as an emergency contact for passenger Celeste Arden, and her flight has been delayed due to weather. She wanted us to notify you that she'll be landing approximately 3 hours later than scheduled." "Which flight?" "Flight 2847 from Amsterdam to Chicago O'Hare." Adrian couldn't breathe. "Chicago?" "Yes, sir. Is there a message you'd like me to relay to Ms. Arden?" "No, no message. Thank you." He hung up. She was coming home. She'd chosen them. Adrian stood there behind his security desk, phone in his shaking hand, trying to process what that meant. She'd walked past the gate to London. She'd gotten on a plane heading west instead of east. She'd chosen a broken-down apartment and a grieving single father and an 8-year-old kid over everything she'd spent a decade building. His supervisor appeared at his elbow. "Vale, you look like you're about to pass out." "I need to leave." "What?" "I need to leave, right now. Family emergency." "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's—" Adrian laughed, surprised by the sound. "Everything's going to be okay." He grabbed his coat and ran. The train to O'Hare took forever. Adrian sat there bouncing his leg, checking the flight status every 2 minutes. Delayed. Still delayed. Then finally landed. He got to the international arrivals terminal at 3:30. The monitors said her flight had landed 20 minutes ago. Passengers would start coming through customs soon. Adrian stood behind the barrier with all the other people waiting. Families, drivers holding signs, people with flowers and balloons. He didn't have flowers. Didn't have anything except a cracked phone and a heart that wouldn't stop racing. The arrivals door opened. People started streaming through. Business travelers in suits. Families with crying babies. College kids with backpacks. A whole plane full of strangers, and Adrian scanned every face looking for hers. Then he saw her. Celeste walked through the doors, pulling a carry-on, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. Hair pulled back messy. No makeup. Wearing the same clothes she'd probably been wearing for 30 hours. She saw him and stopped walking. They stared at each other across the crowded terminal. Then Celeste dropped her bag and ran. Adrian caught her. She crashed into him hard enough to hurt, arms around his neck, face pressed against his shoulder. He held her like she might disappear if he let go. "You came home," he said into her hair. "I came home." "What about London?" "I sent my VP. She'll handle it." "And you're bored?" "They'll deal with it. Or they won't. I don't care." Adrian pulled back to look at her. "You care." "Not as much as I care about this." She touched his face. "I'm done choosing wrong." "Are you sure?" "No, I'm terrified. I have no idea what happens next. I might have just destroyed my career. My board might vote me out. I might wake up tomorrow and regret everything." Her eyes were bright, but I got on that plane and all I could think about was you and Noah, and I realized I'd rather risk everything with you than keep everything without you. Adrian kissed her. Right there in the middle of O'Hare International Airport, surrounded by strangers and overhead announcements and the whole chaotic world. Kissed her like she was the only real thing in it. When they finally pulled apart, Celeste said, "Where's Noah?" "School. We should go get him. He's going to be so mad I didn't tell him I was coming. He's going to lose his mind." They grabbed her bag and headed for the train. Celeste leaned against Adrian's shoulder the whole ride, exhausted and relieved and more herself than he'd ever seen her. At Noah's school, they waited outside until dismissal. When the doors opened and kids started flooding out, Adrian spotted Noah immediately. His son saw them and froze. Then he sprinted across the parking lot and threw himself at Celeste. She caught him, dropped to her knees, held him tight while he cried into her shoulder. "You came back," Noah said, voice muffled. "I promised, didn't I?" "You missed your important meetings." "Those weren't as important as this." Noah pulled back to look at her. "Really? Really? Are you staying?" Celeste glanced at Adrian. He nodded. "Yeah," she said to Noah. "I'm staying." "Forever?" "I don't know about forever, but for a really long time." "Good." Noah hugged her again. "I missed you." "I missed you too, buddy." They drove home together, all three of them crammed into Adrian's car that desperately needed new brakes. Celeste sat in the back with Noah, listening to him talk about everything she'd missed. The solar system project that got an A. The new kid in class who liked dinosaurs. The chapter book his teacher was reading that had a dragon in it. At the apartment, Celeste dropped her bag in the living room and looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. "I forgot how small this place is," she said. "Too small?" Adrian asked. "No, just right." They ordered pizza for dinner, sat around the kitchen table. Noah told Celeste every detail of his art show, even though she'd seen it on video. She listened like it was the most important thing in the world. After dinner, Noah asked if Celeste would read him a bedtime story. She said yes. They disappeared into his room, and Adrian cleaned up alone, listening to her voice through the wall. When she came back out, she looked destroyed. "He okay?" Adrian asked. "Asleep in about 30 seconds. She sat on the couch. "I'm exhausted." "Well, you flew halfway around the world twice in 3 days. Worth it." Adrian sat next to her. "Was it?" "Ask me in a month when my board has definitely fired me." "They won't fire you. You just closed an $800 million deal. I also abandoned them in London. You sent your VP. That's not the same." Adrian took her hand. "Do you regret it?" Celeste looked at him. "Getting on that plane?" "Yeah." "No, not even a little bit." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I spent the whole flight terrified I'd made the wrong choice. That I'd get here and you'd realize I wasn't worth it. That Noah would be better off without me. That I'd destroyed everything for nothing. And now? Now I'm sitting in your apartment eating $6 pizza, and I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Adrian kissed the top of her head. "Good." They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the city was settling into night. Inside, everything felt still and right and impossibly fragile. "What happens now?" Celeste asked quietly. "I don't know. You figure out your job. I keep working mine. We take it one day at a time." "That's not much of a plan. It's all I've got." "What if it's not enough? Then we figure something else out, together." Celeste lifted her head to look at him. "I'm not good at together." Neither am I. We'll learn. She smiled, tired and real and completely hers. Okay. 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 Adrian pulled her close. She curled into him, finally letting herself be small, letting herself stop performing. They stayed like that until she fell asleep against his chest, breathing deep and even for the first time in weeks. Adrian sat there holding her, watching the lights of the city through the window, and let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, choosing each other had been enough. The first real fight happened 3 weeks later. Celeste had been living out of Adrian's apartment since she got back, sleeping on the couch officially, though most nights she ended up in his bed after Noah was asleep, curled against him like she was trying to make up for lost time. Her penthouse sat empty across town, a monument to a life she wasn't sure she wanted anymore. She'd been working remotely, taking calls in the bedroom with the door closed, fielding questions from her board about London and Amsterdam, and why her VP was handling press instead of her. Adrian could hear the tension in her voice through the walls, could see it in the way she paced while she talked, the way her jaw tightened when someone questioned her decisions. That morning, she'd been on a call for 2 hours. Adrian made breakfast, got Noah ready for school, kept everything quiet so she could work. When she finally emerged, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Coffee? Adrian offered. I need something stronger. She sat at the kitchen table and put her face in her hands. My board wants me back in the office. Full time, starting Monday. Adrian set down the coffee pot. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. And I don't know what to do. Noah looked up from his cereal. Are you leaving again? Nobody, just going back to work. But you've been working here. I know, but my office is downtown. I'd have to go there every day. Like Dad does? Yeah, like Dad. Noah went back to his cereal, apparently satisfied, but Adrian saw the calculation happening behind Celeste's eyes. How many hours at the office? How many nights she'd missed dinner? How many bedtime stories she wouldn't be there to read? After Noah left for school, Adrian tried to bring it up. You should go back. Celeste looked at him. What? To your office, your company. You can't run $1 billion business from my bedroom. I've been managing. You've been surviving. That's different. Adrian, you're miserable. I can see it. You're trying to be two different people, and it's killing you. Celeste's expression hardened. So what are you saying? That I should choose? I'm saying you shouldn't have to live out of a bag in an apartment that's too small for 3 people. You have a whole life across town. Use it. I thought you wanted me here. I do. But not like this. Not with you resenting every phone call and feeling guilty every time you have to close a door. I don't resent anything. Liar. The word landed hard. Celeste stood up. You know what? Fine. Maybe I do resent it. Maybe I'm tired of pretending I can do this. Be the CEO who closes deals and the person who shows up for dinner and somehow make both work. Then stop pretending. Figure out what actually works instead of killing yourself trying to be perfect at everything. Easy for you to say. What's that supposed to mean? You don't have 2,000 people depending on you. You don't have a board questioning every decision. You clock in, clock out, go home. It's simple. Adrian felt the hit in his chest. Right. Because my life is so simple. Single dad, dead wife, barely scraping by. Real simple. Celeste closed her eyes. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, you did. Adrian, go to your office. Go back to your penthouse. Figure out what you actually want instead of pretending you can fit into my tiny apartment and my tiny life. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? Mice. That's not what I'm doing. You've been here 3 weeks and you look miserable half the time. I'm not miserable. I'm adjusting. To what? Slumming it with the security guard? Don't do that. Don't make this about money. Us. Mamas. Everything's about money. You live in a penthouse. I live in a place where the heat doesn't work half the time. We're not the same. Celeste grabbed her bag. I should go. Yeah, you should. She walked to the door, then stopped. I'm not running. Could have fooled me. I'm giving you space, since apparently that's what you want. What I want is for you to stop pretending this is working when it's clearly not. Celeste turned to face him. It is working. It's just hard. Maybe it's supposed to be hard. Maybe that's the universe telling us we're forcing something that doesn't fit. Or maybe it's just us learning how to live together. And if we can't, Celeste's eyes were bright, then I guess we'll find out. She left. Adrian stood in the empty apartment for a long time, feeling like an asshole and knowing he was right and hating that both things could be true at once. 3 days passed. Celeste went back to her office, back to her penthouse, back to the life she'd built before she sat down at Adrian's table. She texted every day, checking on Noah, asking how Adrian was doing, sending updates about work. But she didn't come over, didn't ask to see them, kept her distance like she was waiting for Adrian to make the next move. On the 4th day, Noah asked, "Is Celeste mad at us?" Adrian was making dinner, spaghetti again because it was cheap, and Noah would actually eat it. Nobody. She's just busy with work. She's always busy with work. I know. Is she coming back? Adrian thought about lying, about saying of course she was, that everything was fine, that adults just needed space sometimes. But Noah had already learned the hard way that people left and didn't come back. I don't know, Adrian said honestly. Did you fight? Yeah, we fought. About what? Grown-up stuff. That's a dumb answer. Yeah, it is. Adrian turned off the stove. We fought about whether we can actually make this work. Living together, being a family. All of it. Can we? I want to, but I don't know if wanting something is enough. Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mom used to say that wanting something is the first step, but you have to actually do the work too. Adrian's chest tightened. She said that? You sure? Yeah, when I didn't want to practice reading. She said wanting to be good at it wasn't enough. I had to actually practice. That sounds like her. Do you think Celeste wants to be with us? Yeah, I do. Then maybe she just needs to practice. Adrian looked at his 8-year-old son and wondered when he'd gotten so smart. Maybe you're right. That night, after Noah was asleep, Adrian texted Celeste. Can we talk? She replied immediately. Yes. When? Now? I can call. Come over instead. Adrian stared at the message. Then he called his neighbor, a college student who sometimes babysat when Adrian was desperate, and asked if she could watch Noah for a couple hours. She said yes. 30 minutes later, Adrian was standing outside Celeste's building, looking up at the tower of glass and steel that cost more per month than most people made in a year. The doorman recognized him from the one time Celeste had brought him here, waved him through to the elevator. The penthouse was on the 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, furniture that looked like art, a kitchen bigger than Adrian's entire apartment, everything cold and beautiful and completely unlived in. Celeste opened the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair pulled back messy, looking more like herself than she had in days. Hey, she said. Hey, come in. Adrian walked into the penthouse. It was exactly as empty as he remembered. No dishes in the sink, no shoes by the door, no evidence that anyone actually lived here. You want something to drink? Celeste asked. No, I want to talk. Okay. They sat on the couch. White leather, probably cost $10,000. Adrian felt like he might break it just by sitting down. I'm sorry, he said, for what I said about you slumming it. That wasn't fair. It wasn't completely wrong either. Yeah, it was. You're not slumming it. You're trying to build something with us, and I made it about money when it's not about money. It's a little bit about money, okay? Yeah, it's a little bit about money, but mostly it's about me being scared. Celeste turned to face him. Of what? That this can't work, that we're too different, that eventually you're going to realize you gave up your whole life for a guy who works security and lives in a crappy apartment and can barely afford to keep his kid fed. Adrian, I know that's not true. I know you don't think like that, but I can't stop thinking it. I can't stop feeling like you're making this huge sacrifice, and I'm not giving you anything worth sacrificing for. That's bullshit. Adrian looked at her. Is it? Yes. You're giving me a family. You're giving me a reason to leave the office at 5 instead of 9. You're giving me a life that feels real instead of just successful. Celeste took his hand. That's not nothing. It doesn't feel like enough. Because you're measuring it wrong. You're comparing dollar amounts and square footage when you should be comparing things that actually matter. Like what? Like the fact that Noah draws pictures of the three of us. Like the fact that I look forward to coming home for the first time in 10 years. Like the fact that you look at me like I'm a person instead of a bank account or a business opportunity. Adrian's throat was tight. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let you take care of things. Accept help. Be okay with you paying more because you make more. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. What if I can't? Bepasil. Then we'll deal with that too. But you have to actually try. You can't just push me away because you're scared. Adrian looked down at their joined hands. I told you this was about me being scared. I know, and I'm scared too. I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up. That I'm going to choose work over you at the wrong moment and lose everything. That I'm going to wake up one day and realize I'm still the same lonely person who sat alone at that restaurant. Whoa. You're not that person anymore. How do you know? Because that person wouldn't have gotten on a plane from Amsterdam, wouldn't have walked away from London, wouldn't be sitting here in sweatpants fighting for us. Celeste smiled a little. These are very expensive sweatpants. Of course they are. Adrian? Yeah? I don't want to live here anymore. He blinked. What? This place. It's beautiful and it's mine and I hate it. It feels like a museum. I want to live somewhere that actually feels like home. Where? I don't know. Somewhere big enough for 3 people. Somewhere Noah can have his own room and I can have office space and you don't feel like you're drowning every time you pay rent. Adrian's heart kicked. That sounds expensive. It will be, and we'll figure out how to split it in a way that makes sense for both of us. Maybe I pay more of the rent and you handle groceries and utilities. Maybe we stop keeping score and just trust each other. That's a lot of trust. Yeah, it is, but I think we can do it. Adrian looked at her, at this woman who'd walked away from everything familiar to build something new with him, who was sitting here in expensive sweatpants offering to upend her life again because living in a penthouse alone was worse than living in a cramped apartment together. Okay, he said. Okay? Let's find a place, something that's ours. Celeste's face lit up. Really? Yeah, really, Etienne. She kissed him. Adrian kissed her back and thought maybe, just maybe, wanting something and being willing to do the work was actually enough. They started looking the next week, found a 2-bedroom in Wicker Park with hardwood floors and big windows, and a kitchen that didn't make Adrian feel like he was suffocating. The rent was more than he made in 2 months. Celeste offered to cover 70%. Adrian negotiated down to 60%. They compromised and agreed to stop arguing about percentages. Moving day was chaos. Noah claimed the smaller bedroom and immediately started taping drawings to the walls. Celeste set up her desk in the corner of the living room. Adrian unpacked boxes and tried not to panic about how real this was. That night, after Noah was asleep, they sat on the floor of their new living room surrounded by half-empty boxes. This is real, Adrian said. Yeah. Are you scared? Terrified. Me too. Celeste leaned against his shoulder. Think we can do this? I don't know, but I want to try. That's all I'm asking. The first month was an adjustment. They fought about dishes and schedules and whose turn it was to do laundry. They fought about big things too, how to handle Noah's questions about what they were, whether Celeste should tell her board about them, what happened if this didn't work out. But they also figured things out. Celeste started leaving work at 5. Adrian picked up extra weekend shifts to contribute more. They instituted rules. No phones during dinner, no work calls after 8, and once a week they'd get a babysitter and go somewhere that was just the 2 of them. Slowly, it started to feel less like forcing puzzle pieces together and more like actually building something. 2 months in, Noah asked the question Adrian had been dreading. They were sitting at dinner, tacos, because Celeste had discovered she was actually good at cooking Mexican food. When Noah said, "Are you guys going to get married?" Adrian nearly choked on his water. Celeste froze mid-bite. What? Adrian managed. Married. Are you going to do it? Where's this coming from? My friend Sophia's mom got married. They had a big party with cake. It looked fun. Celeste recovered first. We haven't really talked about that, buddy. But you live together. That's what people do before they get married. Sometimes, but not always. So you might not get married? We might not. We're just taking things one day at a time. Noah considered this. That's a dumb answer. Adrian laughed despite himself. Yeah, it kind of is. Do you love each other? Celeste looked at Adrian. Adrian looked back. Yeah, Adrian said, we do. Then you should get married. It's not that simple, Uncle. Why not? If you love each other and you live together and you want to be a family, you should just do it. Noah, I'm just saying, you're both making it complicated when it's not. He got up to put his plate in the sink, completely oblivious to the bomb he'd just dropped. Adrian and Celeste sat in silence for a moment. He's not wrong, Celeste said quietly. About what? We're making it complicated. Marriage is complicated. Or we're just scared. Adrian looked at her. Are you saying you want to get married? I'm saying I want to stop being scared of what comes next. I want to just be with you, without constantly wondering if it's going to fall apart. Marriage doesn't guarantee that. No. But it means we're choosing to try anyway. Adrian thought about it, about commitment and fear, and what it meant to promise forever to someone when forever felt impossibly long and impossibly fragile all at once. What if we're terrible at it? He asked. At marriage? At being married? At being a family? At all of it? Then we'll be terrible at it together. That's not reassuring. Celeste smiled. I'm not trying to be reassuring. I'm trying to be honest. We might suck at this. We might fight and mess up and have to figure things out as we go. But I'd rather do that with you than do anything else alone. Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. Is this you proposing? Bo? Oops. No. This is me saying I'm open to the idea when you're ready. What if I'm never ready? Then we keep living together and being a family and skip the paperwork. I don't care about the wedding. I care about you. Adrian pulled her close. I love you. I love you too. Even though I'm terrible at accepting help and I overthink everything, especially because of that. They sat there in their kitchen holding each other while Noah washed his plate in the sink and hummed something off-key. 3 months later, Adrian proposed. Not with a ring. He couldn't afford the kind of ring Celeste deserved, and she would have hated him spending money he didn't have anyway. Instead, he proposed on a Saturday morning while they were making breakfast. Noah was at a friend's house. The apartment was quiet. Celeste was flipping pancakes, hair messy, wearing one of Adrian's old t-shirts. Hey, Adrian said. Hey, want to get married? Celeste turned off the stove. What? Married. You and me. Want to do it? Are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. I don't have a ring and this isn't romantic and I'm probably doing it wrong. But I love you and I want to be your family officially and I don't want to wait until I figure out the perfect moment because there isn't one. Celeste set down the spatula. You're proposing. Yeah, in our kitchen while I'm making pancakes. Is that bad? No, it's perfect. She crossed to him, took his face in her hands. Yes. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you, obviously. Adrian kissed her. She kissed him back and the pancakes burned on the stove and neither of them cared. They got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, just family and a few friends. Noah stood between them as they said their vows, holding both their hands like he was part of the promise they were making. The reception was in their apartment, cramped and chaotic, and nothing like the wedding Celeste probably could have afforded. But it was theirs. Rebecca from Adrian's work came. Celeste's assistant came. A few executives from her company showed up looking uncomfortable in the small space, but trying to be supportive anyway. Noah gave a speech that was mostly about penguins, but ended with him saying he was glad Celeste sat down at their table that night in the snowstorm. Half the room cried. Adrian definitely cried. That night, after everyone left and Noah was asleep, Adrian and Celeste sat on their couch, the same one where they'd had their first real fight, where they'd figured out how to live together, where they'd built something that looked nothing like either of them had planned. We did it, Celeste said. We really did. How do you feel? Terrified? Happy? Like I might throw up? She laughed. Same. Think we'll be good at this? At marriage? Probably not. At trying? Yeah. I think we'll be great at trying. Adrian pulled her close. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, their family slept and breathed and existed in all its imperfect, complicated, beautiful reality. 6 months after the wedding, Celeste came home with an idea. "I want to build something," she said. Adrian looked up from where he was helping Noah with homework. "Build what?" "A treehouse, in that park near Noah's school. The one with the big oak tree." Noah's head shot up. "A treehouse?" "Yeah, I was walking past it today and thought it would be perfect." "You don't know how to build a treehouse," Adrian said. "Neither do you." "Exactly my point. So we'll learn together." Noah was already bouncing. "Can we really build one?" "If your dad says yes." They both looked at Adrian. He thought about all the reasons it was a bad idea. They didn't have tools, didn't have skills, would probably build something structurally unsound that would get them sued. But he also thought about Celeste's face when she'd walked into the apartment, excited about something that wasn't work. Thought about Noah's drawings of trees and houses and families. "Okay," he said, "let's build a treehouse." Ball. They started the next weekend. Bought lumber from the hardware store. Celeste insisted on paying. Adrian insisted on helping carry it. They compromised by both being stubborn about it. Watched YouTube videos about construction. Made a plan that was probably terrible, but felt like theirs. The first few attempts were disasters. Boards didn't fit right. Nails went in crooked. Adrian hit his thumb with the hammer twice. Celeste got a splinter and complained about it for 20 minutes. Noah tried to help and mostly just got in the way. But slowly, piece by piece, something started to take shape. Other families in this park would stop to watch. Some offered advice. Some just smiled and kept walking. Noah told everyone who'd listened that his parents were building him a treehouse, and Adrian didn't correct him about the word parents because it felt right. It took 3 months. 3 months of weekends, of scraped knuckles and sore muscles, of arguing about measurements and laughing about their terrible carpentry skills. But eventually they had it. A small platform in the oak tree, walls made of mismatched boards, a roof that probably wouldn't survive a strong wind but looked solid enough for now. The day they finished, the three of them climbed up together, sat on the platform looking out over the park. "It's not perfect," Celeste said. "No," Adrian agreed. "It's really not." "The roof is crooked," Noah pointed out. "Yeah, it is. But it's ours," Celeste said. Adrian looked at his wife, at his son, at the imperfect structure they'd built together. "Yeah, it's ours." They sat there as the sun started to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Around them, the park settled into evening. Kids called to each other in the distance. Dogs barked. The city kept moving, oblivious to the small moment happening in the oak tree. "Dad?" Noah said. "Yeah?" "I'm glad Celeste sat at our table." Adrian smiled. "Me too, buddy." "Even though she lied about her name?" "Even though." Celeste laughed. "I did apologize for that. Like 100 times, Noah said. "And I'll keep apologizing." "You don't have to," Adrian said quietly. "That lie brought you to us. I'm grateful for it." Oh. Celeste leaned against his shoulder. Noah leaned against both of them. They sat there in their crooked treehouse, in the life they'd built that looked nothing like what any of them had planned. And for once, none of them worried about what came next. Because the truth was simple, even if getting there had been complicated. Sometimes the worst night of your life leads you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes sitting down at a stranger's table is braver than walking away. Sometimes love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone willing to build something imperfect with you and call it home. Adrian had spent years thinking success meant having everything figured out. That being a good father meant protecting Noah from pain. That being a good partner meant never needing help. That being happy meant having more than just enough. But sitting in that treehouse with his family, he realized he'd been measuring wrong the whole time. Success wasn't about money or certainty or getting it right on the first try. It was about showing up, trying anyway, building something that mattered even when you had no idea what you were doing. It was about choosing each other when choosing would have been easier. About getting on planes that flew toward home instead of away from it. About sitting in snowstorms and empty restaurants and being brave enough to stay. And maybe that was enough. Maybe it had always been enough. The sun dropped below the buildings. The park lights flickered on. From somewhere in the distance, someone called their kids home. But Adrian and Celeste and Noah stayed a little longer, holding on to the moment, holding on to each other, holding on to the future they were still figuring out how to build, together.